Welcome to today's classroom. We're going to learn about how a 15-year-old girl survived one of the most devastating hurricanes in American history. If you have ever experienced a hurricane, we hope that her story helps you understand that you're not alone. And if you have ever wondered what it's like to experience a hurricane, you're in the right place. Because the best way to learn about something like this is to hear it from someone who has lived it.
Our home was about 1/4 of a mile from the Gulf, and there was nothing north of it but marsh. On Wednesday evening, we noticed that the weather was bad, but none of us had ever experienced a hurricane. We kept telling ourselves, we'll be okay. Water won't come up this high. Radio and television reports said don't worry and don't panic. The storm won't hit until Thursday around 4 p.m. However, people in the low areas should move to higher ground. We figured the low area was the territory directly on the beach. Many people left those spots and went to relatives on what was considered high ground. Not once did the weather reports warn us to evacuate. At 5 a.m. Thursday, Mama woke Gloria and I, crying and scared to death. The wind was blowing harder than we'd ever seen. Rain was pouring down, and the water was already about a foot deep outside. I wasn't the oldest in the family, but was the biggest and considered the strongest, so the others looked to me for direction. But already, I had a scared, panicky feeling in my throat. I knew we had to keep calm as we woke the younger children and tried to explain to them what to do. As we were putting towels and rags under the door to keep water from coming in, someone remembered, "Let's get Daddy's boat and drive it to the Cameron courthouse." The water was already to our waists, but Roger Dale and I tied a rope around each other and went to the garage to get the boat. To our horror, we saw that Daddy had the motor torn apart. When we told Mama, she suggested that we put the small children, Sandy and Kathy, in the boat and the rest of us push. We pushed it into the road, but the current grabbed us and pulled us straight toward the marsh. Quickly, we rushed back into the house and into the attic. By then, the water was almost up to the attic. We prayed. Oh, how we prayed. We could hear the wind and see the water and knew that prayer was the only thing that could save us now. Then, suddenly, the back wall fell down and the whole house began floating. We passed several other houses with people on the roof. One small boy was on a roof by himself calling for help, but there was nothing we could do. Then half of our roof flew off and the rest of the house turned over. I felt myself falling and went under the water. Compared to the next 14 hours, those first few minutes were the worst. I was down under the water, and when I tried to get to the top, all I could feel was the roof over me. I needed air. My lungs were bursting. I breathed water, even drank water, and still it didn't help. I knew then I was going to drown, so I gave up. I quit struggling, made the sign of the cross, put my hands in an attitude of prayer, and waited for death. Suddenly, I felt somebody float past me, and I breathed air. Opening my eyes, I saw I was on top of the water. I grabbed the person who touched me, and it was my little sister, Catherine. When I looked around, I also saw Mama, Gloria, and Jan. We never saw Roger and Sandy, even though we hollered and looked all over for them. It was no use. They must have gotten caught underneath the roof. It was almost pitch dark because the rain was pelting down in sheets. The wind was so strong and waves so high that the board we were clinging to began to tear apart. Mama handed Kathy, who was 5, to me because she was afraid she wasn't strong enough to hold her. Then our board tore apart, with Mama and Jan going one way and Gloria, Kathy, and I another. We were on a board about 3 foot square, and since I was the heaviest and was holding Kathy, we were uneven. The board kept flipping. We'd go under and come back up, sometime underneath the board, sometime a little way off, but we'd always manage to catch the board again. During all this time, little Kathy never said a word, never even cried. Then we went under one time, and it seemed like we went clear down to the bottom of the ocean. I kept fighting to get to the top, and the current kept pulling me down. Then either the current pulled us apart, or God help me, I let go of Kathy. When I reached the top, she was gone. I saw her floating 8 feet away. None of us could swim, but I couldn't leave her there, so I jumped after her. When I did, Gloria and the board went the other way. I reached Kathy, and she was still alive, but had swallowed so much water she was almost unconscious. I couldn't find a board, so she and I just kept going up and down. Even a strong swimmer couldn't have gotten far in the wind and waves. I began finding little boards, but they weren't big enough to hold us up. Every time we'd come to the top, I'd try to squeeze Kathy's stomach and breathe in her face to keep her alive, but I think she was already dead. I held on to her as long as I could, but once when we went down, I lost her. I came up and she was gone. Then I was all alone, in the middle of a raging ocean. I didn't know if I was out in the Gulf or even still in the same world. I was in shock, scared, almost unconscious. A board hit me and I grabbed it, then laid my head down on it to rest. I was so cold. I wanted to let go and give up, but that was suicide, and a Catholic doesn't commit suicide. I prayed so much that I'd say my prayers without thinking. Without them, I would have gone crazy. Finally, I thought I saw something, but I'm so nearsighted that I couldn't make it out. I pushed toward it and touched ground. Still holding my board, I started walking. There were some hills with trees and an old garage, but I couldn't get in the garage because the side of a house had fallen against it. I started to climb a nearby tree, but was afraid to leave my board. Then I saw lights, which looked like boat lights. They seemed close, but with my bad vision, they might have been miles away. I started walking toward them, and the water got deep. Once again, I got on my board as the current took me away. It was the same thing all over, being rushed through water and more water. I realized, too late, that I'd made a mistake leaving the high ground. Later on, I saw some more trees, but could not touch bottom, so I was either in the river or a canal. I came to a bank and climbed up on it. My foot was swollen so badly and hurt so much that I couldn't walk. Later, the doctor said they thought I'd been bitten by a snake. I crawled up to a high spot and lay down, waiting and praying, until a boat finally picked me up.
As we reach the end of Miss Thania's hurricane story, I'm wondering what color or colors you would use to color this moment. My first thought is to color it with the color that best represents the word devastating. But then I thought that there's more to her story than that. So my next idea was, what type of artwork would best represent this phrase and this moment? She couldn't swim, she could barely see, and she found a way. And then it hit me. One event does not define you. So I needed to know what happened to Miss Thania after the storm. I needed the whole story in order to create a piece of art that truly represents her story. Are you ready? Because now it's time for the rest of the story.
Hello, my name is Maureen Savoie Crewthirds, and the story you just heard was written by my older sister, Thania Savoie Elliott. I was born 2 years after Hurricane Audrey, and her essay is how I've come to know about the horrific events that they all experienced. I can never truly understand what they went through, but I'm so grateful that my sister had the strength and courage to write this essay so the future generations would never forget. Thania Mae, or just May, Aunt May, as the younger generation calls her, has always been an inspiration to me and so many others through how she has lived her life and how much she has accomplished since Hurricane Audrey. After Hurricane Audrey, my family moved to Lake Charles. Even though the scars were fresh and still so vivid for all of them, my family was committed to moving forward, keeping their faith and their family at the center of their life. May began her junior year at LaGrange High School, but continued to volunteer with the American Red Cross in Cameron. She wrote this essay during this time so everyone would know of their struggle, but that they survived. May graduated top of her class as valedictorian from LaGrange High School in May 1959. May spoke at numerous events for the American Red Cross about her and my family's experience during Hurricane Audrey. At one of these events, a bank executive from Baton Rouge, Louis Gottlieb, heard her presentation and was so impressed that he awarded her a full 4-year honor scholarship to LSU. May decided to pursue nursing at LSU. One of her professors once told her, "I wanted to teach you students how to care for people and know how important life is. But you already had that. You came to class with it." May graduated from LSU with a bachelor in nursing in 1963. She worked in various clinical settings over the next couple of years, but wanted to be able to teach in nursing school. She attended Tulane University and graduated with a master's in public health in 1969. After receiving her master's, she taught nursing at both LSU and Loyola University. May then pursued a law degree at Loyola University. In 1991, she graduated in the top 10% of her class. She was 50 years old. After obtaining her law degree, she worked for both the Louisiana State Board of Nursing and the Louisiana State Medical Board. After 25 years, she retired in 2016 at the age of 75. While all of these professional accomplishments are awe-inspiring, her pride and joy are her family. They are the center of her world. She's been married almost 60 years to my brother-in-law, Bill. They have 4 wonderful children, 12 grandchildren, and now 1 great-granddaughter. She has a full social calendar with volunteer activities at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, New Orleans Museum of Art, and her local parish Adoration Chapel. She is active in the Garden Club and is an avid Saints, Tulane, and LSU fan. Plus, she is always there whenever anyone needs anything. May is also the life of the party. She embodies the Cajun joie de vivre spirit with everything she does. Everyone wants to attend an Aunt May party. As I reflect upon her accomplishments after so much tragedy, it reminds me of a quote from one of my favorite movies, Shawshank Redemption. I guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living or get busy dying. Boy, did she get busy living. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Miss Maureen. So what type of art do you think best represents Miss Thania's story? I would build a steel sculpture of a pair of hands, and the shape of the hands would resemble the shape of a magnolia flower. A steel magnolia sculpture of a pair of caring hands. But what about you? Please share your ideas in the comment section below. Thank you, Miss Thania Savoie Elliott, It was easy celebrating you after a journey like that. And thank you, viewers, for watching. If you were moved by anything Miss Thania May said, wrote, or went through, please leave a comment. And if you'd like to be notified when we post another story of another amazing person, please click the subscribe button so you can meet another person who has overcome a great challenge or wants to bring understanding to the misunderstood. This is Charles McNeely with Dev Doc Theater. See you next time.